This week, we're looking at the simplicity of awakening because, as usual, we've been overcomplicating matters and getting our mind into a big old muddle. So let's have a look at some wonderful wisdom quotes to guide us back to the truth of life and the truth of who we are. My name is Aliki. Welcome back to all my wonderful subscribers. And if it's your first time here, I encourage you to take a little look around at the playlists because there's some useful stuff here that you may find quite helpful. There's no person that awakens. The Dan character that had been doing all this meditation, this doer of meditation, realized that it couldn't awaken. It's like all the meditation tricks, all the practices that had been learned were of no use. It got to the point where the character who was trying to awaken failed to awaken and had to fail. The character that I'd been playing all my life had to let go. And what was left was my true nature, just me. The paradox with practice is that when you finally awaken, you realize that all of the practices were being done by the false self, the character in the virtual reality game, and that you, the true self, was never bound. All you have to do is give up the preferences of the ego, to give up the fixation on things. Anything within the field of changing phenomena is not the true self. The you that you think you are, the you that you've always been identified with, will never awaken. You awaken from that character. You awaken from the delusion that you are this conditioned character. When people come to these retreats, they think this I, this little me, is going to awaken. Some great thing is going to happen. But that little me will never do it. It has to give up. It has to fail. It's only in that failure we realize who we are, that we've always been aware, we've always been present. We just got hooked into this character and we believed we were that. Daniel talks about this character, this person who he thought he was. We're so convinced that we're this little limited me. We're so convinced that we're the character in the play that we completely lose sight of what's real. The you that you think you are, the you that you've always identified with, will never awaken. But don't get depressed, don't get downhearted. This is a wonderful thing to realize. Actually, we really need to get this so that we don't end up wasting most of our lives barking up the wrong tree and trying to awaken our false sense of self, because that's what we're really trying to do when we're seeking awakening and hoping for enlightenment. It's that part of you that doesn't realize who you really are. It's that false sense of self, the ego, whatever you want to call it. It's that mistaken identity that is seeking. It makes perfect sense that that part of you is seeking because it feels so separate. It feels desperately separate and it's searching for completion. It's like you're sort of navigating life as half a person and you just won't rest and be satisfied until you find the other half of you. So Daniel says the you that you think you are, the you that you've always been identified with, will never awaken. But then he says 5 more words that bring us into a most wonderful realization. He says, you awaken from that character. You awaken from that character. To wake up from this world of the little me, where everything is so difficult and scary and stressful and anxious, complicated and frustrating and boring. To awaken from the delusion that we are this separate person, disconnected from life and from everyone else. Because it's simply not true. That's how it appears, yes, on the surface of things. But isn't it time we went below the surface and had a deeper, truer understanding? I think it's time. I think we're all capable of this, really. So rather than awakening to something, it's more an awakening from. It's an awakening from the delusion that we are this conditioned character. It's awakening from the delusion that you are this little limited, helpless person going through life as a victim at the mercy of all the terrible things that have happened and that are going to happen. I mean, that's quite a bleak outlook, and yet that's how many of us live our lives. So what Daniel realized is that he wasn't the person he thought he was, and he let go of the person he thought he was. That doesn't mean that we no longer have a personality, a name, a character to play in the game of life. Not at all. What it means is that you don't confuse your true being, the truth of who you are, with this character and all the things that happen to it, all the events that occur in this character's life, all the so-called shortcomings and failures of this character, right? Because when you awaken from the character, you awaken from the conditioning, you awaken from the dream of this imagined life, and suddenly you find that you're present and aware, fully present, until you get hooked into believing you're that character again, which, as we all know, is the perfectly normal dance of life. It's because I feel separate that I begin to seek. In the material world, it's the search for money, fame, better relationships, or a stronger sense of self. In the spiritual world, it's the search for awakening, enlightenment, and liberation. But really, it's all the same search. It's the search for completion, the search for home. What I try to communicate is that you never left home in the first place, that oneness is all there is, and it's here, and it's now, and we're not separate from it. And in the seeing of that, the whole search for something more falls away. All those years that we spent trying to end the separation, and now we discover that we were never separate in the first place. We got so attached to our teachers, the ones who tried to tell us how to live, because they believed that they had found the answers and wanted to pass on the good news, that we missed the utterly obvious. Life itself was always trying to teach us. Life itself was always the one and only teacher. We were so busy searching for that awakening experience, that bliss experience, those second-hand experiences we'd read about, that we missed this experience. So busy looking for the extraordinary experience that we miss the ordinary experience. Jeff points out that we get lost in the teachings of our chosen mentors sometimes, and it's very easy to do this because, again, we believe we're this separate character, so we're looking, searching, trying to find our way home, right? We won't rest until we find our way home. We won't rest until we can feel complete and whole and happy and peaceful. We won't rest until we discover and know our true nature. Jeff says it's because I feel separate that I begin to seek. There's nothing wrong with seeking. I actually commend you for being a spiritual seeker. We have to go on that journey, don't we? Seeking the truth. So we're on this search for home. We're on this search for completion. But we're already home. And actually we're already complete. Now you might say, well, it doesn't feel like it though, Aliki. It doesn't feel like it at all. You're right, it doesn't when you're listening and believing the thoughts in your mind. If you're feeling incomplete, it's because of a thought, a belief that you have that you are incomplete, right? If you're feeling discouraged because you're not getting that lasting awakening that you desire so much, you're not getting some incredible enlightening experience, become aware of your thoughts about awakening and your thoughts about enlightenment, and you'll realize that you believe something extraordinary needs to happen, that you're just not satisfied with it being so ordinary. Jeff says all those years that we tried to end the separation only to discover that we were never separate in the first place. We're not separate. We're not separate. We're not disconnected. We just think we are, and it appears that we are in our human experience because we keep thinking our way out of the present moment and losing ourselves in our thoughts about the past and the future. If you examine yourself, you will see that most of the day is spent thinking, either remembering the past or imagining the future. This is why you feel disconnected. This is why you're still searching, because you're trying to find some kind of answer with the part of you that will never be satisfied, that will always be seeking, because that's what it does. That's what the false sense of self, the mistaken identity, your mind does. We don't want to spend the rest of our lives searching for this oneness, this glorious oneness, when we're already one, and we can enter into the experience of this oneness simply by being present. Now, some of you aren't going to believe me because you have an idea of presence. But presence isn't an idea. Presence isn't an idea. There's no difference between you and me and the present moment. This is where oneness is. We have the address of oneness. The address is here now. If you know what I'm going to say now, don't you? If you take a little conscious breath with me, just a little one, just be here with the sounds for a moment. And notice that as you're listening intently to the birds and anything else you can hear, the breeze blowing, some children in the background playing, you're fully present. And in this place of presence, you are yourself. You're complete. There's nothing wrong. Only when we go back to the thinking mind will we find the problems there that the mind has created. But in the meantime, in this beautiful place, and you don't have to be outside in a beautiful place, you can be anywhere, to come back to presence, you discover, actually, this is my home. This is my true home. This is where I belong. Here, now. Fully awake, alert, one with everything. You know, all of nature is inviting you to be present with it. But are you too busy, lost in books about awakening, searching for that supernatural experience of enlightenment that you heard about? So on the one hand, there's a kind of once for all awakening. This is where you really wake up from the dream of your life and you realize that your whole life you've been living in your mind and believing your thoughts, and everything that you ever believed about yourself and about your life sort of comes crashing down, and you have this incredible new realization and way of going through life. It can look different for everyone. But there's also something which I'll call daily awakening, and that's where throughout the day you realize that you get lost in thoughts, you get lost in this character that we play. You can have many little awakenings from that throughout the day. And this is the journey we're making every single day, from mind to heart, from mind to heart, from who we think we are to who we really are, from getting lost in our experience of life to coming back home to the awareness that we are. Wake up. You don't have to do anything to wake up. The very thought that you have to do something in order to wake up is the very thing that makes consciousness grab onto this identification with form. There's nothing inherently wrong with you. Zero. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what the whole egoic conditioning rides on. That there's something wrong. Enlightenment depends to a large extent on believing that you're born for freedom in this lifetime and that it's available now, in this moment. The mind, which creates the past and future, keeps you out of the moment where the truth of your being can be discovered. In this moment, there's always freedom and there's always peace. This moment in which you experience stillness is every moment. Don't let the mind seduce you into the past or future. Stay in the moment and dare to consider that you can be free now. What beautiful words from Adyashanti about freedom. Isn't this what we all truly long for? To be free from all the hassle of life, right? Adyashanti tells us that enlightenment depends on whether we truly believe that we can be free now. Do you believe that you can be free now? Be honest. If not, that's okay. Recognize that. Recognize that you don't believe you can be free now. Recognize that you believe you have to achieve something, that you believe that it's difficult to be free, that awakening isn't going to happen for you, or it's not going to happen in the way that you want it to. Sit with these things. Recognize them in you. And by doing so, eventually, you will be able to let them go. Adyashanti says, in this moment, there is always freedom and there is always peace. Always freedom and there's always peace. Can you fathom the truth of these words? There's always freedom and there's always peace. But how can that be, you ask, right? How can there be freedom and peace in my current situation? The thing is, we've learned to always focus outside of us. What's going on out there in the world, you know, the events of our life. And we look around us at how the people around us are reacting to things and dealing with things. And that's how we learn our patterns of behavior. We can become present and allow the veil to lift, even for just a few seconds, here and there, when we remember. And we discover that in this magical place of presence, freedom is here. Freedom is always here. And peace is always here, too. Because in this place, you're one with your true nature of love. And of course, love encompasses all things, including freedom and peace, and anything else that you may need in any moment. That's what we're doing in these videos. We're discovering our spirit, you know? We know our mind, we know our body. We're discovering our spirit, that deeper part of us. We're discovering that part of us that is love. Pure love. My name is Aliki. Welcome to croaky Aliki. How about over here? But there's noise here. Freedom and truth. Oh my goodness, there's a whole class of school children there. Let's hope they're not coming over here.